So, Elden Ring, it's arguably one of the greatest games of all time. It is a tremendously high-selling game too. It's one that showed us that we don't need quest markers and basically streamlining the cognition out of video games for a video game to be great. In fact, thinking about the game is a pretty damn good thing. Maybe it's a part of why people have fallen in love with the game and its world. Now, with it being such a large game, so much content, so intricate, it might be surprising for people to find out, Matt, that the next thing from FromSoft is shockingly soon. Now, maybe there needs to be an asterisk there, but it is sooner than we may think, and that does come, right from the man himself.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You think of how, especially something like Bethesda, right? They go make their Elder Scrolls, they go make their Fallout, and then they're like, right, we're going back into the hibernation chamber to work on the new couple 100-hour game. But FromSoft have kind of never done that. They've always had this super fast release cadence. Always, like, in the past, they just pumped out tons of games. I can't remember, it was like 35 games in their existence or something, maybe more now. But that was the case where, like, Sekiro came out of nowhere around the same time as, like, Dark Souls 3. And I was like, oh shit, these are both great games. And then Elden Ring was the one where it's like, this is going to take forever. And it kind of did, in a way. But one other series that's been dead since, I want to say since maybe 2012, 2013, has been Armored Core. And that's what they've said before, that's what's going next. But everything we've seen is development of that is in the final stages.
Yeah.
It's incredible to think that you can have... Well, I mean, that's basically what CDPR wanted, right? They want parallel pipelines, parallel AAA production.
Yes.
And over there at FromSoft, they've been doing that for years now.
Yeah, and they seem to still be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I suppose it's not much of a surprise. You think about Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3... and also Bloodborne, and also Sekiro. Like, they have just kept on making incredible games.
5 games in 10 years or so.
So, during an interview for Sekiro, right, they said the 3.5 lines were in operation in-house at the time, and 2 were unpublished. Now, of course, this is machine translated, but basically, I think that's, sort of 3.5 projects in operation. One of the unpublished ones, of course, is Elden Ring, but they were asked to provide comment on the other one, to which Miyazaki said, development is also in the final stages, saying, in fact, there are several titles directed by people other than me, and it's time to increase the number of developers.
Yeah, that's the one thing that is interesting, because obviously Sekiro felt super, super Dark Souls, but it wasn't Miyazaki because they were working on Elden Ring at the time. So they clearly have like either super efficient developers or they are about 40 times the size anyone thinks they are. Because you kind of think FromSoft, oh, they're that little small Dark Souls dev. That's not true.
You especially think that with the interesting technical quirks and features of some of their games, right? You sort of would think, oh, they're a bit smaller, they have to be scrappy. But no, they evidently do actually invest their successes. So essentially, yes, there is another major game. Now, there is also Deracine? Deracine, yes. So this is a 2018 announced first-person PSVR adventure.
Yeah, and that kind of came out to like no one really paid attention or cared. Hard to say if that's because it's VR, like a first-person VR thing, and it was on PSVR exclusively, or if it was just like it wasn't super interesting to people. But that was like Miyazaki's passion project.
Yes.
He was like, I'm going to make this cute little thing in my downtime with my team. And everyone else can do the big stuff. And that's kind of where he talks about, like, that's what they're going to do in the future. They're kind of going to go, okay, well, Elden Ring is obviously Miyazaki's, like, magnum opus. It's probably going to go down history as that.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, well, what do you do next? All the people who learned from him for the 5 games they put together are going to have all this experience, be able to lead to the actual future. And that's kind of exciting, although I will note that it hasn't gone super well for Platinum Games, who've tried to do the same thing. But that's a different story.
So the future, like, he basically talked about how if he kind of keeps on doing these hobby projects and that is the business, then that could be quite, as he puts it, via machine translation, delicate, of course. But he did say that the titles will be supporting the company are a bit more taken over by younger directors. Really good example of that is Sekiro, which I believe he was co-directing with the lead combat designer of Bloodborne.
Yeah,
Am I right?
Yeah, so it was Kazuhiro Hamatani, who was the lead game designer of Bloodborne.
That's it.
He was then director with Miyazaki on Sekiro, which is certainly, you look at timelines and go, how did you do that? Holy shit. But yeah.
Well, I guess you look at, say, what Yoshi P does, and it's like, okay, how the hell are you holding down the MMO while also producing FF16? This is insane. How do you do it?
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff is kind of things that we knew was coming, right? So in 2016, he said that the studio was working on a dark fantasy game. We know that's Elden Ring, a game that's a little bit weird, which maybe is Deracine, and a mech game. Which, of course, is going to be Armored Core, because it's them.
Absolutely.
And then in 2022, this January actually, a Reset Era user, Licorice, posted about a consumer survey that mentioned a new Armored Core game. And it featured a game description, screenshots, and some gameplay footage of a boss fight and a snowy area.
Yeah, that
sure is something.
Yeah, that's where stuff gets interesting, because this is like a full, like, here's the full marketing beat. It's melange and unknown substance could dramatically advance human society, all that, like, kind of the background, where, you know, obviously you pointed out that's just spice.
the spice melange, that's it.
Yeah, but that's the case. If it's it's a third-person shooter, mech action title, there's an unknown mercenary, the protagonist is one of them. That's the whole Armored Core thing, right? Where you think, okay, well, Dark Souls games, directed by Miyazaki, you can see a lot of that Berserk influence, that dark fantasy, that, oh my god, the world is really, really scuffed. The world is really terrible, and a lot of it is like power structures and the people who rule the world, like, holding on to their power of dear life, trying to hold that status quo, and it, like, is causing all the people beneath them and themselves to suffer tremendously in this stasis, this sort of stagnant kind of thing. And you go, okay, well, that's, there's obviously the good parts that they try to, bring the feel of it up a little bit. And then Armored Core it's always been that before Miyazaki joined, because his first project, I believe, was Armored Core 4. Or no, I think it was Armored Core Last Raven. And then it was 4 after that, but he directed 4. And that was like basically every numbered one is kind of like a little bit of a soft reboot. But in this case, you look at Armored Core, you go, oh yeah, it's Dark Souls, but in the future. In the sense that it's this corporatism, the corporations built mechs over to the government, and they're like, in the same way there's like the lords of Dark Souls, there's these corporations, and instead of being this chosen undead, this one, like, I guess literally who, you're that, but in a mercenary form, in a mech. So it's a lot of the same kind of stuff, and that's why I saw when it was like, the sci-fi world created by Hidetaka Miyazaki, and I was like, that's a fucking marketing spin. That's not true. That was what I thought, because I thought the Armored Core series went back further. I was like, oh wait, no, he actually did kind of soft reboot that. So they are very much going with, this is Miyazaki, this is the Elden Ring people. This is the Elden Ring Armored Core. This isn't like the Armored Core that if you Google you'll find it. This is something new, this is something different. And it seems to be this like full open world stuff based on what I can see.
I think for Armored Core that works really well.
Yeah, it's different to the old mission-based structure. That kind of very much, one of the things I always find fun is Armored Core is AC. Ace Combat is AC. The actual similarities between both of those games, obviously one's about mechs and the other's about fucking fighter planes, but the similarities are actually kind of insane.
I have a fragment of a memory from when I was a child playing Armored Core. I think it was 2 on the PS2. Yeah. Maybe it was I don't know, but it was such a long time ago. But yeah, I've always liked their spin. It's kind of nice having something there that's like different, taking things to MechWarrior.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm thinking about in regards to why we're talking about this today, and it's like, can Armored Core actually follow Elden Ring? Can anything follow Elden Ring? Is that going to be a reasonable ask of anything? And that's a difficult question to answer. But I was looking back at how Armored Core presented itself, and obviously it was kind of a small enough series overall, big enough to be a series, but never penetrated the West or anything like that particularly strong, to the point where most of the reviews for like the PS3 generation ones were, there's no one playing this online, why'd you make an online component? Which is very, very sad. But I was going through, I was like, no, this actually does just sound like it has all the same DNA as a Souls game in terms of the atmosphere, the immersion, all of that is technically possible in the world. Because you think about how the Dark Souls endings and the Elden Ring endings are all these very different, like, philosophical takes on what you do, and that's what makes it feel so like meaningful to people. It's like you go and you get the Age of Stars ending, and you know what that is, and it feels kind of real to you. And then I remembered For Answer had 3 Armored Core For Answer, which is the follow-up to 4, had 3 endings, and one of them was literally genocide. One of them, the first one was you stopped this threat, but doomed humanity to be like living on these cradles above the earth until like they all just kind of, there was no way out. So it was like a slow death of humanity because there's no way to actually solve the problem. The second was you kill a lot of people, but you break whatever's blocking the Earth's atmosphere so they can escape to space. And then the third is you're a bad guy and just kill all of them, literally wipe out humanity. So it's like all of that stuff is there. It's not super overt, you know what happens, but it's like a lot of that reading between the lines, a lot of that go to Zully the Witch or Vati Vidya to understand what's going on. A lot of that same kind of vibe is there. So I'm actually hoping that it maybe could work in the end. That's what I'm super hoping for. And in terms of how far it is along, obviously, you know, you can make up screenshots, but if they're posting this full marketing doc of like, this is the finished game, then that implies that they're in, like you said, the final stages of development, which is, hey, we're doing some QA, we're doing some polish, in the same way that Final Fantasy 16 was said to be in the final stages of development, or, you know, people were translating as more or less done, and it's not releasing to 2023. So I feel like 1 year, or maybe a year and a half after Elden Ring, they come out and go, oh yeah, here's mech Elden Ring, have fun. Fucking hell.
Yeah, like I don't think it would do as well because I think fantasy can go further, and I say that as a sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
I think one thing that could help them though, kind of cross over, is a little bit of what Red Licorice, the Redditor, said from the gameplay footage that they saw. Basically, very Soulsy in terms of speed and style. So I think if that ends up feeling familiar enough, then yeah, we should actually be on to quite a winner.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, obviously I think the fantasy won't sell as well because people generally, dark fantasy has a stronger kind of thing with people. But the idea of them going, here is literally Elden Ring, but it's in mechs, that's going to get like maybe at least half the sales, right? At a very loose estimate. Yeah, at least about half people go, I could do that. That's assuming people have finished Elden Ring by next year, because some people play games pretty slow. But that's the idea. There's a little bit of, oh, they're just doing souls, but mech instead of keeping the armor core thing. But then you think about it and go, the parts of armor core for Answer I remember are the Spirit of Motherwill, where you're just like, it's you versus this incredible giant thing. And it's mechanical instead of, real, but it's fucking crazy. The idea of them just going, here, this game's kind of done, and we're just getting the marketing right. Can we follow up Elden Ring? It's really exciting. It's really exciting.
So we know there's new Armored Core coming, and it's pretty much in the final stages. Now, the next thing then is the future of Elden Ring, where I've actually, I think, got some good and or interesting news, at least. So basically, he confirmed that there will be continuing updates for Elden Ring. And he also said that for fans of that genre of game, they've been accumulating abstract fantasy ideas and images that are not suitable for that format, as in the sort of game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, and that Miyazaki would love to do something with them. I mean, we know that the idea, like what he did with the PSVR project, of just doing a cool little hobby project, we know that is possible. We know it's a thing they can do. So it's not insane to say that there might be some sort of smaller project that is, as you know, as he puts it, like where these abstract fantasy ideas go. So neat.
Yeah. So we don't know if they've like plans for DLC for Elden Ring or anything like that. And I think people are kind of pissed off at that recently because Elden Ring had this like new wave of news and this new wave of publicity, including like that live action UFC advert. And everyone's going, wait,
the
DLC?
UFC.
Oh yeah, there's a UFC partnership. Elden Ring's trending today on Twitter, and if you look, you'll see UFC tweeting about it, and you're like, sure, I guess. Bandai Namco are pulling some strings there, I guess. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how that works.
That's a different audience.
Yeah. But I think that's it. Like, people are kind of pissed at like, where's the next thing? So I think people are genuinely like hungry for more Elden Ring, especially considering how much stuff seemed unfinished in the end of that. So the idea of them, I don't want to say live servicifying, but the idea of DLC. And this is the one thing that people new to Elden Ring might not actually know this, because it's kind of one of the lesser known things about the Dark Souls series. Each game has been, exceptional in its own kind of way, but one of the things that, and you see this with Miles Morales, for like basically the second Spider-Man game that isn't Spider-Man 2, whenever a developer gets into the swing of stuff, a lot of what's in the game might be shit that they made when they didn't know what they were doing, or only had a basic idea of what they're doing. But anything that comes afterwards in the same genre, in the same kind of, especially if it's a quick follow-up or DLC, is usually substantially better. Sometimes they kind of push the boat out and it doesn't work. But the Dark Souls DLCs, outside of a couple, I can't remember which one specifically, but they're generally seen as substantially better than the base game in a couple of ways, because they're like, we have perfected what, say, Dark Souls 1 combat feels like. Yeah. So then you've got Artorias. Because that's one of the things people might not understand as well, Artorias and the whole, like, that whole thing with, I can't remember the end boss's name, but one of the most striking figures of Dark Souls to people is actually a DLC boss. And that was where they had everything really down. They knew what that felt like. Same with 2 and 3, where the DLC is just so much like distilled essence of what makes the games perfect, and like a kind of small section of here's a new area. And it's just one area that's beautifully designed. So if they ever do it with Elden Ring, it'll be fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. Hopefully that happens.
Yep.
I think it does. It's good enough to deserve it. So overall then, he's commented on updates for Elden Ring. We don't actually know what that means yet though. No. And we know that the next big thing is on the way. As well, that they have fresh blood, newer, younger directors working on projects, and that they are expanding. Right? So, I mean, more FromSoft software is going to be happening. Now, there is another little thing, too. There was an old survey. It was like basically a bit like a Glassdoor, but for Japan. Yeah. And it didn't look particularly great for FromSoft. However, it was full of quite a lot of old data, not really a lot of new data, and it basically came down to people being proud of the work they're doing, happy doing the work, but that some of the working conditions and the compensation, that stuff wasn't really ideal. Yeah. So a few questions were given to Mr. Miyazaki about all of this stuff. And so he commented on trying to improve the salary treatment of employees, saying that they are increasing the bonus standard as of January, and they're increasing the salary of young to mid-level employees as a whole. And as a result, the new salary of graduates is 260,000 yen.
That'll be a month, I hope.
yeah, I'd really think so. That is a very low amount of money. You will earn more money being a indie developer in a company with not that much cash in Belfast, Northern Ireland, as a graduate. Yeah. So that's bizarre, but it's not the only compensation. I think this is also the point that he wanted to make, because in addition to this, there's a mechanism called a settlement bonus that allows for additional bonus pay when the company's financial results are good. Now, it's technically not something that happens every single year, but he did say that at least since he became president, it has been paid every year. As an example, then, that he provided, since Elden Ring was strong, it's basically 4 months of pay worth, and so I guess that's 4 months of pay for like the whole company as part of the settlement bonus, but then more for people who are core members of that project.
Nice.
Which, hopefully does mean people who worked on it as core members, not just the senior leadership staff of that team. So there you go. It's definitely a very different corporate culture. Yeah. In that country, right? I think it's a little bit more typical for a graduate level job to just be pretty brutal with a pretty low compensation. Now, it is worth mentioning that some of the averages for the area in which they employ their staff are like higher than this.
Yes.
I think including for like janitorial work.
That was from in
the old thing, yeah.
Yeah, from the Career Connection feedback on Glassdoor was like, we're getting paid less than janitors of people next door because they were like in a fairly, I just checked, it's in Shibuya in Tokyo, which is an expensive enough kind of area to work in and live in and stuff like that. So, but in terms of, he said it's been paid every year since he's president. That's 2014. So hopefully they are actually doing a decent enough job there. And then Bandai Namco were happy enough to increase all of their staff after Elden Ring's launch as well. So that hopefully that just means that it is actually going fairly well. It is a little bit concerning to look at his comments, but like, hey, this is, you want to be a company that makes interesting games seriously, which we've heard that used as an excuse before of, people are in this for the love of making the games, and that's kind of an excuse, but...
Well, the thing is, if it is 4 months, then that bumps up the graduate salary to being more like £26,800.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine the cost of living in that area is higher than it would be here, but at least that does make it better. But that said, if it takes one of the highest selling games of the year to produce a settlement bonus like that, you'd you kind of would worry about the base case. So I think there are some worries there. There are also good things that he is talking about, with the company, but certainly just from the raw, money bit, it does seem bizarre from an external perspective. That being said, there could be other forms of compensation that we are not aware of. There could be data that's not made public. So perhaps we just need to see if there's going to be any more comment on this one.
Yep. And also, when I was looking for their office, I did a quick little Google of FromSoft to try and see it. And Google's crawling their website. The title for their website is Armored Core, all lower caps. And no one's reported on this yet. So that must mean...
Have we just found breaking news?
So that must mean they're getting very, very close to actually doing something with it. Or an intern's having some fun.
Oh yeah, look at this. So I've just got it here. FromSoftware.jp. It's just Armored Core, all lowercase.
And nothing's different on their site at all. It's still the Elden Ring thing. That's
very interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Matt, we've did it. Journalism. We found the news.
We found the news.
Incredible. Now we can perhaps get ourselves stuck at the, being the source of a citation circle.
Again.
Again, yeah.
Yep.
Just at this time, it'll actually be true.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah,
wow.
Look forward to Armored Core. That'll be announced soon, and that'll be a Elden Ring, but in mechs. Hopefully, it lives up to something of the same kind of thing. With a post-apocalyptic destroyed world in a mech sense, you probably can't get the same amount of, hey, go talk to an NPC. But I can vouch, at least from the games I've played, it has the same potential. It has the same potential to be a living, breathing world that's full of really interesting philosophical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, is that not what mech media from Japan basically equals?
Yeah, unless
so let's go.
Yeah, unless you're a fan of Macross, where it's actually about love triangles and idol singing, but don't let them don't let them.
So there you go. Maybe Armored Core hype train choo choo. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm certainly interested. I remember enjoying what little of Armored Core I played back in the PS2 a long time ago.
Yeah, it probably won't sell 13 million copies.
Maybe not.
But as long as it sells 5 or 6, I think that would be completely unprecedented.
Do you think Guerrilla can get away with publishing the next Horizon game?
Oh my god.
Beside Armored Core? Will it kill that project too?
It would be...
Not that Horizon got killed, but it seems to have taken a hit.
Yeah, I think there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it might actually be... the comparison between Elden Ring might not just be a better game. It might be a little bit more, as we discussed back in the day when that came out. Might just be the formula's kind of failing a little bit.
Actually, I recently saw... welcome, this is the post-credits discussion. I saw... I think it was... I don't know who they were writing for, but it was a bunch of journalists who basically just were commenting on Horizon saying, I don't really remember that. That actually hasn't left an impression on me at all. And I thought that was rather interesting. Now, this is spoken from somebody who's only played the first few hours of the first one, and I mostly just enjoyed the photo mode.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of thought, oh, this is an Ubisoft open world game. But it has a lot of budget, and it looks pretty.
It would be really, really funny if... Because Guerrilla obviously have been in the Horizon mines. It'd be really funny if they also have been working on a Killzone. And they release a Killzone, and Armored Core comes out in the same time and kills it. Oh dear. Oh dear. Maybe we'll will it into reality.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, we'll keep on trying to will that into reality, and while we're doing that, go click at another video and enjoy your life.
Yep, absolutely.
As you know, you guys know the deal. There was a video out yesterday. I believe there will be a video out tomorrow as well, so stay tuned to the channel. If you want to support what we're doing, you can check out The Pale Beyond, the video game that we are developing, and wishlist it on Steam, of course, if you would be interested to do so. With that said, see you next time.